You hear an unexpected knock at the front door. You look through the peephole and see a stranger holding a clipboard. You open the door, and the person hands you a thick stack of papers, says you've been served, and walks away. You're suddenly holding a lawsuit. Your stomach drops, your chest tightens, and a million questions flood your brain. This is the exact moment where ordinary people make mistakes that cost them everything. I am going to tell you exactly what that paperwork means, what happens if you ignore it, and the very first things you need to do to protect yourself. First, we need to talk about the absolute worst thing you can do right now. You might think if you just throw the papers in the trash, the whole problem goes away. Maybe you think if you don't acknowledge it, they can't proceed. That's a trap, and it will ruin you. When you get handed that stack of papers, you're being sued. Being sued just means someone has filed a formal legal complaint against you, asking a judge to force you to pay money or do something. The person suing you is the plaintiff. The plaintiff is the person making the complaint. You're the defendant. The defendant is the person accused of owing the money or doing the wrong. If you ignore the papers, the plaintiff wins automatically. In the legal world, this is called a default judgment. A default judgment is a formal court decision where the judge rules in favor of the person suing you simply because you didn't show up to defend yourself. The judge doesn't know your side of the story, and they don't care. If you don't respond, the plaintiff wins by default. And when they win, they don't just get a piece of paper. They get the full power of the court to come after your money. That default judgment allows the plaintiff to start garnishing your wages. Wage garnishment means your employer is legally forced to take a chunk of your hard-earned paycheck and send it directly to the person suing you before you ever see it. It means they can freeze your bank account. They can sweep in and take the rent money you need for next month. It means they can put a lien on your house. A lien is a legal claim against your property that acts like an invisible anchor, preventing you from selling or refinancing your home until you pay off the debt. Ignoring that stack of papers doesn't make the problem disappear. It gives the other side a loaded weapon to take your cash, your property, and your peace of mind. You can't stick your head in the sand. You've to face it head on. So, let's look at what is actually in your hands. That stack of paperwork usually has two main parts. The first part is the summons. The summons is the official court document that tells you exactly who is suing you and exactly how many days you've to respond. The second part is the complaint. The complaint is the actual document where the person suing you lists their specific accusations against you. You need to read every single word. Don't just skim it. You need to know who is claiming you did something wrong. Read the accusations carefully. Do they claim you broke a contract? A contract is a legally binding agreement between two parties, like a lease for an apartment or a payment plan for a truck. Does it claim you caused property damage? Does it claim you failed to pay a debt? As you read, take a bright pen and circle anything that looks totally wrong. Highlight any facts that are completely false. Does the lawsuit claim you owe $10,000 when you know you only borrowed $5,000? Does it claim you live in another state? These inconsistencies are incredibly important, but you must understand the timeline. The court doesn't wait around for you to feel ready. Right there on that summons, it gives you a strict deadline. This is called the response deadline. The response deadline is the exact number of days you have to file your official answer with the court before you lose by default. This number varies heavily depending on where you live. In some places, you might only have 20 days. In others, you might have 30. It forces the other side to actually work, gather evidence, and prove their case. Very often, debt collectors and shady companies sue people just hoping they won't respond. When you actually file an answer, they realize you aren't an easy target. Sometimes, they drop the case entirely because they don't have the paperwork to back up their claims. Now, there's a massive trap you need to avoid while you're doing all of this. After you get served, your phone might start ringing. The person suing you might call you directly. A debt collector might try to chat. They might sound friendly, offering you a quick settlement if you just agree over the phone. Don't do it. Never talk to the other side without getting advice first. If they call, hang up. If they email, don't reply. Everything you say can and will be used against you. If you admit to anything during a casual phone call, you're handing them free evidence. If you agree to a payment plan without getting the terms in writing, you're walking into another trap. You need a paper trail for everything. If they want to offer a settlement, which is a negotiated agreement where both sides compromise to end the lawsuit, it must be in writing. Protect yourself and stay silent. You might be reading this and thinking there's no way you can afford to fight this. You might feel completely outmatched by the legal system. But you've options. If you can't afford to hire an attorney for the whole case, you still need to file that answer before your deadline expires. Look for legal aid societies in your area. Legal aid organizations provide free legal assistance to people who meet certain income requirements. Call your local courthouse and ask if they have a self-help center. A self-help center is a service provided by many courts to give free procedural information and forms to people representing themselves. You might not need a high-priced lawyer to file your initial answer. If your case is simple, like an old credit card debt, you might be able to file the paperwork on your own. This is called appearing pro se. Appearing pro se just means you're representing yourself in court without an attorney. The clerk of court can give you the blank forms. The clerk of court is the official court administrator who manages the files and records for the judge. But remember, the clerk can't give you legal advice. They can't tell you what to write in your answer, but they can tell you how many copies to make and where to file them. There are also situations where you absolutely must get a lawyer immediately. If you're being sued for a massive amount of money, you need professional help. If your wages are already being garnished and you need to figure out how to stop it, you need a lawyer. If the lawsuit involves your home, your business, or a severe injury claim, don't try to handle it alone. You also need to check the statute of limitations. The statute of limitations is a strict legal time limit on how long someone has to file a lawsuit against you. This time limit varies by state and depends on the type of claim. For example, in many states, a credit card company only has 4 or 6 years to sue you for an unpaid balance. If they file the lawsuit even 1 day after that time limit expires, you've a complete defense. If you bring up the expired statute of limitations in your answer, the judge will throw the case out immediately. So, you need to organize your defense immediately. Get a large manila folder and put every single piece of paper related to this case inside it. Keep the envelope the papers came in. Find any receipts, old contracts, emails, or text messages that relate to the person suing you. Gather your evidence now so you've it ready. The longer you wait, the harder it's to find the proof you need to protect yourself. This is education, not legal advice. I am explaining how the legal system generally works so you aren't operating in the dark. Laws change constantly, and the rules in my state are completely different from the rules in your state. You've to verify the specific deadlines and procedures for your local courthouse. If you're staring at a summons right now, what is the one question keeping you awake at 2 a.m.? Let me know down in the comments. If this breakdown gave you a shield for your next move, send the video to a coworker or family member who might be panicking over a sudden knock at their door. Make sure you subscribe to Scribble Law so you always know the playbook before someone tries to use the legal system against you.